Buddy, how are you doing? Well, if you're joining in late, that's cool because I'm going to get right to it. See if I can just run through some of these really interesting stories I found today. It's been a wild day. Um, just nothing much going on here, and just been a rainy day. It's getting cold. Christmas is getting ready to come around the corner. I think uh, I think everybody is about ready for a new year. I know that I am. I would love to see a new day, new year, and see what's in store because winter is going to suck this year. All you folks that are up there in the northern states and out there in Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, you know, hope everything works out really well for you. So I was looking around just to see if I could find some really odd news. And, today is a beautiful Wednesday, getting over the hump. So I figured I would just pull up some really interesting news. And this is what I got. Interesting news. So, according to Google or Yahoo News, three people claiming to be sovereign citizens were arrested Saturday morning after live ammunition explosives were found in a vehicle they were driving at their remote compound. So, after live ammunitions and explosives were found in a vehicle they were driving at their remote compound. Okay, so they were at their own place. Deputies conducted a traffic stop for a suspected vehicle code violation Saturday just after 10 a.m. on a Ford Taurus near Joshua Tree National Park. Okay. Near Joshua Tree National Park. Okay, it wasn't on Joshua Tree. Sheriff's Department said inside the car were David Russell, 50, and Jeffrey Russell, 46, who identified themselves as Sovsits. Sovsits are a fringe group of members who consider themselves exempt from U.S. law and who sometimes use violent tactics to justify their beliefs. Doesn't mean that they were, it just means that sometimes those Sov citizens do. Authorities said records checks showed that the two men were prohibited from possessing and owning firearms. Bad. If you're prohibited, don't do it. The deputies found live ammunition, black gunpowder, and an improvised military grade explosive device. Okay. You guys just must not know. Adding that the explosive device was safely disposed of. Deputies then obtained a search warrant for a property in Johnson Valley, California, where the community where the Russells resided. They discovered more military grade explosives and ammunition, as well as firearms at the compound. A woman at the compound, Venus Mooney, 54, she was arrested. The three were booked at the Morongo Basin Jail for possession of an explosive device and possessions of a controlled substance while armed. They're being held without bail pending a court appearance. It was not immediately clear if the three suspects had an attorney. Okay, this is not contributing to the story except saying what the Southern Poverty Law Center says about Sovsits. That's interesting, but not that interesting. Jeez. Oh, here we got these 8 idiots that got arrested. We're effing robbing idiots. 8 financial influencers were indicted in a massive pump and dump scheme. If you ever heard the words, "this is not financial advice" or "this is not stock advice" when scrolling through TikTok or YouTube, you can be sure the next several minutes will be devoted to doing exactly that. No, it's not true. Now, federal law enforcement alleged that several financial influencers, followed by hundreds of thousands of would be traders, were using their fans to bet on stock trades. all the while expecting to cash out before prices tanked. In an unsealed 44-page indictment, well, let's open that up in a new tab, filed at the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Texas, a grand jury charged 8 financial influencers on a large-scale securities fraud conspiracy that racked up over $114 million in over a little less than 2 years. The U.S. Department of Justice alleged these influencers went by handles like PJ Matlock, Dip Deity, Ladyback. Federal law enforcement said all of these accounts hyped up certain companies by posting false info to their thousands of followers on Discord and Twitter and through podcast appearances, all the while planning to dump their shares when the stock price became inflated. Bad idea. Between them, the alleged fraudsters had hundreds of thousands of followers who would potentially listen to their stock advice while soaking up many inane dude bro messages the influencers regularly posted to their accounts. The 8 influencers named in the indictment include Edward, Harry, John, Gary, Stephen, Tom, Mitchell, Daniel. Good job. The DOJ said Knight was party to the scheme through his podcast Pennies Going in Raw, and that he hosted alongside Mitchell Hennessy, while the other alleged fraudsters were active in coordinating their stock promotions. Along with multiple counts of securities fraud and conspiracy, the influencers could be on the hook for $114 million, according to the indictment. Along with multiple counts of securities fraud, blah, blah. Attorney information for the influencers was not immediately available Wednesday. Matlock was arrested Tuesday at his home in the Woodlands, Texas, according to court filings. At the same time, DOJ, Department of Justice, revealed that its indictment, the Securities and Exchange Commission, also revealed charges against the 8 individuals. The scheme is a classic example of pump and dump. Just remember this, folks. This is not financial advice. But if you hit that like and subscribe right down there, you too could be a member. It's if you wanted to. Where fraudsters artificially inflate the value of a stock price in order to cash out later. In this case, the financial influencers were reportedly profiting by hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time from them bumping up the price of some stocks. The defendants used social media to amass a large following of novice investors and then took advantage of their followers by repeatedly feeding them a steady diet of misinformation, which resulted in fraudulent profits of approximately $100 million, SEC Enforcement Chief Sanson said in a release. As if to I can't say that word right off the top of my head. The allegations, the indictment dives into transcripts of recordings from some of the influencers as they chatted openly about their scheme on Discord. The SEC noted that the influencers thought their conversations were private, but all the while they were being recorded. When Knight and Tom Cooperman chatted about their scheme in May 2021 to pump up the value of GTT Communications stock price, one of their co-conspirators, who went on unnamed in the indictment, seemed afraid of getting caught. The person said, "I just want to do it the right way." Knight allegedly responded, "The fucking right way? We're robbing fucking idiots of their money." The conspirators spelled out pretty cleanly in their Discord chats just what they were trying to accomplish. Like what so-and-so does is he alerts it, and then like 5 minutes later, all his little minions start like retweeting it and saying added with him. So it like builds the hype back up. Happens every single time. They don't have this shit down to a fucking science. It's great. Oh, they have this shit down to a science. It's great. According to the SEC, Rybercheck, who went by the stock sniper on Twitter, told his followers, "It's not my goal to only make me prosper. I want all of you to prosper. I'm going to make each and every one of you make it. The market is so universal. You just adapt to current conditions. Let's go crazy." While Matlock's account was disabled Wednesday, Ryberchick, Deal, Haverton, Cooperman, and Hennessy were all still tweeting about stock prices. Sunday going into Monday, by the time they stopped messaging, the influencers were promoting companies like investment managers, State Street Global Advisors, immunotherapy company Harpoon Therapeutics, and the retail giant Amazon. Knight's account last tweeted December 10th, thinking about becoming an anti-vaxxer, but was already vaxxed. Are there any devout anti-vaxxers that can help me, please? Edward Constantuse, I don't know. Last tweet from early Wednesday morning read, "I love my homies on here. The rest of you can keep swinging on my nuts." Interesting. Well, thank you, Yahoo News. But here's the indictment. Let's read through it. From in or around January 2020 to in or around April 22nd, the defendants, they name them, engage in a scheme to pump and dump securities based on false, misleading information and materials, omissions about those security frauds. To carry out scheme, the defendants profited at least $114 million. And it just gives a little bit of information about who they are, where they are, what they were doing. And then it goes into about number 10, which is the defendants use social media platforms to maximize their trading profits in or around the relevant period. The defendants held themselves out to investors on Twitter, Discord, and elsewhere as skilled stock traders. The defendants, for example, frequently posted on Twitter the profits of their trading activities. The defendants also frequently posted pictures on Twitter of luxury residential properties, vehicles, jewelry, and other luxury items. The defendants also frequently encouraged investors to join Atlas Trading Discord, purportedly so that other investors could share in the defendants' financial gains by trading securities. As Note wrote in a private message to another Twitter user on or about January 10th, "So much credibility, we own FinTwit." FinTwit describes a community of Twitter users who discuss finance and stock trading. Defendants use their credibility to maximize their own trading profits through their tweets and posts. To do so, one or more of the defendants purchased security, often notifying other defendants of the purchase so that they too could load and buy the security. After purchasing or loading the security, one or more of the defendants sought to pump the price of the security by posting false and misleading information about the security on Twitter and Atlas Trading Discord, so other investors were induced into doing the same thing. This is why you don't invest in things that you don't understand. Everybody wants the get rich quick scheme. It doesn't work. Doesn't ever work. There is no get rich quick scheme. Sometimes you luck out. It's like playing the lottery. Everyone talks about what was his name, Salty Kitten or something of that sort. Well, he didn't do anything wrong. He just happened to be paying attention to what GME stock was doing, thought it was a good time to buy. He didn't tell anybody. He just bought and bought and bought. And then all of a sudden, those shorts came due and the stock pumped up like crazy. And then he sold it. He wasn't pumping, he wasn't dumping, he wasn't promoting it. He was just trading. He actually, I'm sure, has ridden off into the sunset and is not really worried about it. I bet you anything that he probably still does a little bit of trading, but he's probably a little more reserved on what he does trading. And I'm sure this stage in his life, all that he does, just kick back, relax, and enjoy life. Spend time with his family, because he really does not have to work again. If you invest your money right, you're pretty much set for life. That's all I'm saying. So, continuing on, messages represent that the defendant intended to hold security, including for a swing or longer term trade, as opposed to a short term trade, day trade, blah, blah. So basically, it's just telling how they were actually doing it. They were just telling people to do some crazy shit, and people were buying into it, and they were getting, you know, they were getting reamed. See? They're really not giving anything. Certain the defense also criticized on Twitter and Atlas Trading Discord other people who lost money from purchasing securities that defendants pumped and dumped, and who questioned whether defendants were in fact trading in the way that they represented on social media. Indeed, the defendants' efforts to mislead and conceal material information from other investors. On or about July 8th, 2020, between Matt Locke. See, it's starting to treat like the goons, sweet, Kuvo, I don't, it looks like Knight expressed the following views during a recorded conversation on or about February 24th, 2021. I mentioned a stock, the less likely I get involved whenever all of Atlas gets a class action lawsuit. I'm playing this extremely smart for the very long term. If you don't think all these efforts are going to jail, at least get sued. You're crazy. PJ is posting McLaren's 10 million accounts. Green 400 effing days in a row. Come on. Every purchase over $10,000 immediately gets turned to the SEC. And it's like everything he effing buys, just wait and see. It's market manipulation. From on or about September 11th, 2020 till September 14th, 2020, these three goons, Deal, Ryberchak, Matlock, collectively sought to pump and dump security of the issuer China SXT Pharmaceutical trades on the NASDAQ Stock Exchange under the ticker SXTC through false representations, pretenses, and material omissions. Yeah, if you're going to do a crime, don't do it online. Don't do a crime in the first place. But if you're going to do a crime, don't have it recorded for everybody to see you do. It's tasty. So they're just going through a little bit of the timeline of what they did. On or about September 14th, Deal posted the following false and misleading statement while omitting that he intended to sell his own shares in SXTC. SXTC added 100K here, extremely oversold RSI on this one, and recently granted NASDAQ extension to get the price over $1, and insiders own 51% of this. Great setup time for a big runner. A break of 0.30 takes us to 0.40, then to 0.52, then to 0.61. Love the setup here. By approximately 9:38 EST, Deal sold all 62,103 shares of SXTC at an approximate price of 28 cents per share for an approximate profit of $2,381.24. At 9:33, Matlock similarly started selling shares of the same stock, claiming that he grabbed a few SXTC with you, concealed that he was process of liquidating his position. He sold all his 146,000, and he made a profit of about 1,800. Very bottom penny. So it looks like they were selling it all off. iCheck sold 400,000 of his shares at an approximate price of 0.285 per share for a profit of $15,079. They continue to post false and misleading information about SXTC on Twitter and Atlas Train Discord in or around the time they continued to sell shares. After he sold all of his shares, SXTC deal falsely claimed in a tweet at SXTC, we're holding above 30 cents now. We are very clear here, and this honestly should run for days to come from these levels. By approximately 10:29, they had sold every share of that they held, and for combined profits of $19,323.83 in or around February 21st. The others collectively sought to pump and dump. We'll see how much money they made off of this one. Sold all of his shares at $2.12, $2.09, $2.15, $2.16. And it looks like their approximate profit altogether, they profited $876,000 from that little scheme. And then they did it again. 24,000. It's just constant stupidity of them bragging about it to one another, of how they're just pumping and dumping and making a lot of money. You can see 21,000. And it just goes on and on and on and on. So every day, these guys were basically buying really cheap stock. Then they would pump it up. And they did it on purpose. And they did it with SXT, Torchlight, GTT, Surface, Alsmed, Universal Pharmaceuticals, ABVC, Camber, DatChat, and that was in violation of United States codes. It was the purpose of the conspiracy for the defendants and their co-conspirators and unknown to the grand jury to unlawfully enrich themselves by pumping and dumping securities in the above described issuers and others through false and misleading posts and material omissions on Twitter and the Atlas Trading Discord. And then it shows what they did, their dates, and then it goes what other crap they went into. It looks like it show that they accumulated 4 million, 5 million, another 3 million. So there you go. Thank you guys. I hope you you suffer. Oh, here we go. Lansing. Some soft sits. Pleading guilty to writing fake checks. Yeah. Looks like they got caught on that one too. Dummies. Why are soft citizens not very smart? I don't know. So here we go. That's stupid. I don't care. Oh, this is quite funny though. A woman's devious Christmas light prank on dad leaves people in stitches. A woman has been secretly driving her dad crazy with a prank she pulls at his house involving his computer-controlled LED Christmas lights. The daughter has been the victim of her dad's pranks over the years. He is the family joker, so this year she opted to get her own back, and when her mom found out, she could not wait to join in. Talking to Reddit, great. Gotta love those. The daughter explained that she decided to take matters into her own hands this year and give her dad a taste of his own medicine by playing a simple but devious prank on him involving his Christmas lights. So she got him a set of computer controlled Christmas lights. They're really cool. You can control each individual LED and you can set patterns on them. You can make your tree twinkle or look like a candy store. It's a neat system. I installed the app for the lights on my dad's phone and showed him how to use it. But she went on to say that her dad's lights can also be programmed to look like one of them is broken, as you can make any individual LED flicker, so she decided to use this to her own advantage. All the other lights work perfectly, but you can pick one and make it look like it's shorting out. If flickers, goes out, comes back on randomly, and you can cycle through all of the lights. That's pretty goddamn funny. Since she has been playing this prank on her dad, it's been driving him crazy and he has grown frustrated with his new lights. He has unstrung them from the tree 3 times now. He lays them out and tries to see which light it is. But when he unplugs them, they revert to a default state and just cycle through the colors. When her mother noticed the lights only seemed to flicker when her daughter is around, she confronted her about it, and when she found out the truth, both of them were left in stitches. And of course, Mom has been even asked how to do it so she can try it herself. But the daughter is now considering she has taken the joke too far and is thinking of stopping. In response, many supporters have asked her to keep on going. We love it that your mom joined in. She's the real hero here. If your dad can dish it out, he can take it. And please tell your mom she is awesome. While the other said pranks are the worst, but as a prankster, I'd say he deserved it. I agree. I agree. Nope, don't care about that. Yeah, those were the boneheads right there. I thought that was interesting. No, don't care. Why are Alabama women face trial for feeding and trapping stray cats? This is taking cat lady to a new extreme. I've known some crazy cat ladies that would adopt a lot of cats. But they would adopt them. They wouldn't just snag them up and trap them and feed them. Weird. So, 2 women are scheduled to stand trial in an Alabama city court where they're accused of committing misdemeanors in their efforts to feed and trap stray cats. Hmm. Mary Alston, 60, go figure, Beverly Roberts, 84, were arrested and taken to jail by police in Wetumpka over the summer. The police chief said the women had previously been warned not to feed stray animals. Trial was set for Tuesday morning in Wetumpka Municipal Court. I'm sorry. If you live in Wetumpka, there's something seriously wrong with you. Just saying. Both women who were arrested on public property. What in the hell? There we go. Both women who were arrested on public property faced misdemeanor counts of criminal trespassing, the Montgomery Advertiser reported. Roberts was also charged with disorderly conduct, while Alston faced a charge of interfering with government operations. Terry Luck, the attorney for one of the women, and they said they were performing a public service by trapping stray cats and having them neutered and spayed. There were plenty of other ways this could have been addressed without these ladies being arrested and taken to jail. Wetumpka Police Chief Greg Benton said feeding the cats had created a nuisance because it attracts more animals to the area. He said both women had been repeatedly warned to stop prior to being arrested. The prosecutor assigned to the case, Brad Eckdahl, said he's aware of the arrests have attracted attention, but beyond Wetumpka, a city of 7,200 people that's located about 15 miles northeast of Montgomery. I think the best approach is to present the evidence in a fair and impartial manner and allow the judge to render a verdict. So, what do you think? Feeding cats a good thing? But if that wasn't bad enough, German police seek to help solving bull sperm heist. Why are you heisting bull sperm? Sorry. The AP reports in Berlin, police in West Germany are appealing for help in cracking a potentially very cold case. Authorities say about 60 containers of bull sperm were stolen from a farm in the town of Olfen, 90 kilometers, 56 miles northeast of Cologne, late Monday or early Tuesday. Police said in a statement that while it's unclear how the rustle happened, I don't know. How did they get that? The precious cargo needs to be supercooled with liquid nitrogen at negative 196 Celsius so it isn't spoiled. They are seeking tips. Man, that's got to be really cold to put it in the cow's coop. Anyhow, they're seeking tips from the public that might lead to the recovery of the sperm, which was intended for artificial insemination. Who were they inseminating? But here's another odd one. In Bremerton, Washington State Patrol trooper issued a $533 ticket to a driver Sunday after the person drove more than 5 miles with her vehicle and windshield almost covered in snow. Trooper Heather Weatherwax, what a great name, especially if you're called Trooper Heather Weatherwax. I like that. Said the State Patrol received a report about a person driving erratically along State Route 16 south of Bremerton. When pulled over, the driver reportedly told the trooper that her windshield wipers weren't working, Weatherwax said. The driver received the ticket for second-degree negligent driving. Weatherwax urged people to remove all snow from vehicles before hitting the road or hitting other people. Might be a good idea so you can see what you're hitting. Oh, this happened not too far from me. Here in Decatur, Georgia. Georgia sheepdog is recovering at home 2 days after killing a pack of coyotes that attacked his owner's flock of sheep, said John Weirwiller. Casper, a 20-month-old Great Pyrenees from Decatur, fought off a pack of coyotes who were threatening Weirwiller's sheep farm, he said. The fight lasted longer than half an hour, left 8 coyotes dead, and bloodied Casper with skin and part of his tail torn off. Weirwiller told Atlanta's WAGA-TV he scampered off but returned injured 2 days later after Weirwiller. He put a call out on social media. He was kind of looking at me like, boss, stop looking at how bad I look. Just take care of me. Aw, poor puppers. Lifeline Animal Project raised more than $15,000 for the sheepdog's hospital bills. Though dogs rarely prevail like Casper, packs of coyotes attacking pets have grown somewhat common in rural and growing suburban areas that abut wild lands throughout the United States. Good puppers, Casper. Good puppers. Should donate to Casper. Figure it out. Oh, rat attack. From dogs to rats. New York City seeks hands-on leader in anti-rodent fight. I have an idea. Get yourself some coyotes. Hate rats? Are you somewhat bloodthirsty New Yorker with excellent communication skills and a general aura of badassery? Then you might have what it takes to be the city's new rat czar. Mayor Eric Williams' administration posted job listings this week seeking someone to lead the city's long-running battle against rats. The official job title is Director of Rodent Mitigation. Although it was promptly dubbed the Rat Czar, salary ranges from $120,000 to $170,000. That's not even going to get you in a good rat infested place. The ideal candidate is highly motivated and somewhat bloodthirsty, determined to look at all solutions from various angles, including improving operational operational efficiency, data collection, technology innovation, trash management, and wholesale slaughter. God. The posting is whimsical, but the job is daunting. New York City leaders have been trying to control the rodent population for generations with mixed results. Sightings of rats in parks, sidewalks, and other places in the city have recently increased. City rats have survived a multi-million-dollar effort under former Mayor Bill de Blasio that focused on more trash pickups and better housing inspections in targeted neighborhoods. The city also launched a program to use dry ice to suffocate rats in their hiding spots. Oh, jeez. I won't even get into how to do this. Adams, when he was a borough president of Brooklyn, once demonstrated a trap that used a bucket filled with toxic soup to drown rats lured by the scent of food. Now, the Adams administration is looking for a top rat bureaucrat to become the public face of the city's eradication and education efforts. Cunning, voracious, and prolific, New York City's rats are legendary for their survival skills, but they don't run this city. We do, claim the posting. Applicants are expected to have a crafty sense of humor and to lead from the front using hands on techniques to exterminate rodents with authority and efficiency. Well, that sucks. In Germany, woman arrested for shutting roommate's ventilator. Again in Berlin, a 72-year-old woman has been arrested after she allegedly switched off a hospital roommate's ventilator twice because she was annoyed by the sound it made. Authorities in Germany said Thursday the woman was jailed on suspicion of attempted manslaughter following the incident at the hospital in the southwestern city of Mannheim on Tuesday evening. Police and prosecutors said in a statement that the suspect is alleged to have switched off the 79-year-old woman's ventilator and, despite being told by staff that it was vital for the patient, switched it off again later in the evening. The older patient had to be revived, and while her life is not in danger, still requires intensive care. The suspect was brought before a judge on Wednesday and taken to jail. Well, as you should have been, you crazy, odd person. Oh, look, someone dug through some trash. In New Hampshire, a celery stalk sighting and a little luck came together to help a New Hampshire man find his wife's wedding ring in 20-ton trash trailer. The jewelry wrapped in a napkin he had accidentally thrown away. Kevin Butler had taken the trash to a transfer station in Wyndham last Wednesday. Unwittingly, he had tossed the napkin into the white trash bag, not realizing his wife had cleaned the rings and wrapped them in the napkin to dry. Several hours later, he returned to ask for help in finding the rings amid the piles of garbage. He said, "I'm pretty sure I threw the rings out." So they had surveillance video to see what time Butler first showed up at the transfer station where he threw it out. They used the excavator to start scooping up trash from the trailer. After about 5 or 6 scoops, they saw a white bag with a telltale clue. One of the things he said inside were celery stalks, and I could see a celery stalk sticking out of the side of the bag. They started going through the bag, but there was no signs of the rings. But at the very bottom, underneath some carrot or sweet potato peelings, there was a napkin. Literally, I opened up the napkin and there were the 2 rings. Well, congratulations. That's a happy story. We like happy stories. Not just fast food. Baby comes quickly at an Atlanta McDonald's. Yes, they've nicknamed their baby Nugget. Okay. People, don't don't name your baby Nugget ever. That's that's bad. Don't name it Nugget. No. Don't name it Chicken. Don't name him Big Mac. Don't name him Mac. Don't call them little fries. Don't call them anything. You shouldn't do that. It's bad. Really bad. Alondria Worthy tells TV station that her labor was intensifying and her fiance was driving her to the hospital Wednesday morning when they stopped so she could use the bathroom at a fast food restaurant. I went into the bathroom and my water broke immediately. Worthy said she started screaming. Restaurant manager Tunsi Woodward was sent to see what was happening. Opened this door. I didn't see anyone, but I saw feet under the door and I opened it and she was on this toilet lying back screaming. Then I knew to tell my crew we're having a baby today. Woodward and two workers began to help. The fiancée, Deidre Phillips, came in to check what was taking so long, only to find Worthy giving birth. I was trying to calm her down because she was frantic. I was like, just breathe. I got her on the floor and took off my clothes. Okay, that's a little creepy, Phillips. Why would you get on the floor and just take off your clothes? The ladies at McDonald's were at her front side holding her hands. I had her feet propped up on my knees. We told her to push 3 pushes. She was a fighter. Less than 15 minutes later, naughty Arian Moriam Phillips was born. More me. Man, give your child something that's easier to pronounce. Christ. There you go. New York, don't accuse of the TSA of catnapping on the job. When an alert agent at JFK Airport noticed tufts of orange fur poking out of a slightly unzipped suitcase, it gave him pause. As the bag went through the X-ray unit, the Transportation Administration, the TSA agent was in for a surprise. Inside were 4 paws and a tail belonging to a feline stowaway. On the bright side, the cat's out of the bag. Passenger was paged to return to the ticket counter after the cat was found. A traveler said that the cat belonged to someone else in the household, implying that he was not aware the cat was in the suitcase. We call that a good catch. The stowaway cat, identified by the New York Post as Smells, was returned to its owner. The cat owner told the Post that Smells must have crawled in the suitcase of a visiting friend. She didn't know her tabby was missing until airport officials reached her. That could have been a long flight. That is a really messy bag. Really messy bag. Just saying. Really messy bag. Horrible at packing. Get better at this. In Paris, this is where I got that picture from on the cover. Right there. If you don't know who this is an Iranian man who lived for 18 years in Paris's Charles de Gaulle Airport, whose saga loosely inspired the Steven Spielberg film The Terminal. He died Saturday in the airport that he long called home. And I'm not going to try, I'm just going to say Moran died after a heart attack at the airport's Terminal 2F around midday, according to an official with the Paris Airport Authority. Police and a medical team treated him but were not able to save him, the official said. The official was not authorized to be publicly named. Nassiri lived in the airport terminal 1 from 1988 to 2006, first in legal limbo because he lacked residency papers, and latter by apparent choice. Year in and year out, he slept on a red plastic bench, making friends with airport workers, showering in staff facilities, writing in his diary, reading magazines, and surveying passing travelers. Staff nicknamed him Lord Alfred, and he became a mini celebrity among passengers. Eventually, I will leave the airport. Smoking a pipe on his bench, looking frail with long, thin hair, sunken eyes, and hollow cheeks, but I am still waiting for a passport or a transit visa. Nassiri was born in 1945 in Solomon, part of Iran, then under British jurisdiction to an Iranian father and a British mother. He left Iran to study in England in 1974. When he returned, he said he was imprisoned for protesting against the Shah and expelled without a passport. He applied for political asylum in several countries in Europe. In Belgium, they gave him refugee credentials, but he said his briefcase containing the refugee certificate was stolen in a Paris train station. French police later arrested him but couldn't deport him anywhere because he had no official documents. He ended up at Charles de Gaulle in August 1988 and stayed. Further bureaucratic bungling and increasingly strict European immigration laws kept him in a legal no man's land for years. When he finally received his refugee papers, he described his surprise and his insecurity about leaving the airport. He reportedly refused to sign them and ended up staying there several more years until he was hospitalized in 2006 and later lived in a Paris shelter. Those who befriended him in the airport said the years of living in the windowless space took a toll on his mental state. The airport doctor in the 1990s worried about his physical and mental health and described him as fossilized here. A ticket agent friend compared him to a prisoner incapable of living on the outside. In the weeks before his death, Nassari had been again living at Charles de Gaulle. The airport official said Nassari's mind-boggling tale loosely inspired The Terminal, starring Tom Hanks, as well as a French film, Lost in Transit, and an opera called Flight. In The Terminal, Hanks played Victor, a man who arrives at the JFK airport in New York from a fictional Eastern European country, discovers an overnight blah, blah, blah. They just give the plot. No information was available about survivors. Angela Carlton in Paris contributed. That's pretty sad. I think we should keep some more oddities around. Yeah, don't do this. All right. Let's get to this. This right here was a really interesting one. So it looks like this is the end of the Elon Musk, Matt Taibbi, and Barry Weiss saga. At least that's what it looks like. So what they've got to say. As Michael Schellenberger says, Twitter was supposed to be a digital public square. Instead, it censored accurate information and banned an elected head of state, Trump. Even though Twitter's own employees said he hadn't broken the rules, why is that? And what should be done about it? Internal Twitter discussions made available to Matt Taibbi, Barry Weiss, and him show that Twitter employees created secret blacklists that prevented tweets they disagreed with from trending and limited the visibility of particular users. And that's sweet of them. Really good. And of course, we've already read through all of those. But Twitter's most controversial decision by far was permanently suspend President Trump, which we all know. We discovered the employees who investigated the matter concluded on the morning of January 8th that he had been not incited violence, even in a coded way. Not only did Twitter decide to bomb Trump, we already know that. What changed? The pressure both sides and outside of Twitter simply grew too great to resist. At the time, it was like all of polite society was demanding Trump's ban, including Michelle Obama, influential tech journalist Kara Swisher, ADL, and many others. We all know this. Why the double standard for Trump compared to the other political leaders? Yes, why? Tell me. I think a big part of the reason is simply local. Twitter employees are mostly Americans and mostly based in the US and thus far more invested in politics here than in any other nations. Well, that's your opinion. Why don't you look at some of these other nations that, are up in arms that we can't really talk about because we might end up getting removed from the platform? Yesterday, in response to the Twitter files controversy, Jack Dorsey wrote, "Moderation is best implemented by algorithmic choice. I don't believe a centralized system can do content moderation globally." I responded to his Twitter. It was horrible. I read his story. Well, I started reading it. But that right there, algorithms are written by humans. So they're going to be fallible. If you don't know how an algorithm like that works, basically it says, "Hey, you said X, Y, or Z," even if it was taken out of context. Say you put the word George in there. Anytime you see the word George, it's going to go away. Imagine how many times George would not be mentioned. Like the whole tweet would be removed because George was there. If you want to try something really neat, there's a little setting inside your settings for Twitter where you can block certain words that will not show up. It'll actually block the tweets for you. You know, instead of trying to moderate it, why not just set it where you don't have to view the things you don't want to view? Mine is COVID-19. I blocked that. So, what would happen anytime someone would post something about it, it would block the tweet entirely. Say you can't view this tweet because I blocked it. It's like putting up your own personal filter. Works for me. I didn't have to read any of the news about any of that BS for 2 years. Yeah, about 2 years. It's nice. I'll go to his little story here shortly after this because I think it's worth reading. Maybe we'll criticize it a little bit. Dorsey is repudiating his original version of Twitter as a single global digital public square. For proof, look at both the web and email. I love the web and email, but neither provided the digital town hall experience that Twitter provided. The alternative to Dorsey's vision would be to regulate Twitter and Facebook like we do other natural monopolies, such as electric utilities, water companies, and railroads. People who are censored or suspended from social media. See, that's the problem. He's comparing Twitter to all of the other platforms. You've got other places that you can go. You can find your news elsewhere. Twitter just happens to be one of the largest places to get news, usually days, hours, weeks, months, years before everybody else does. It's not about who you follow, it's just being informed about what's going on. Pretty straightforward. But I digress. People who are censored or suspended from social media utilities could appeal their censorship through some sort of special court system. Why? That's a waste of resources. That is such a waste of resources. The main argument for such an approach is that democracies require a town square so people can debate ideas across ideological lines. Following that argument is the role of the federal government to prevent the operators of the public square from denying people the right to speak. The argument against it is the remedy could be worse than the poison. Governments would quickly find themselves facing the same problem as Twitter in deciding who should be allowed to speak and who shouldn't. In retrospect, Dorsey's vision of a single digital town square was hopelessly naive. Every website has to make some decisions about content moderation, if only to enforce laws including the one upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court in Virginia versus Black 2003 against issuing threats of violence against a particular individual or group of individuals. That's a horrible ruling. I have to ask a lawyer about that. I would ask my wife, but because she's very biased to these kind of things, I probably won't get a good answer. The question is, who should make those decisions and how? The end. So no real big cliffhanger. No big cliffhanger at all. Sort of a nothing burger, if you ask me. Hey, they didn't. So now I get to look at some other stuff. Almost looks like I've got boobs there. No, I don't. I just muscle there. But hey, let's say got too. So this isn't a really long read, but I think my response to Jack was well placed. You tell me. Here we go. So Jack's response was, there's a lot of conversation around the Twitter files, and here's my take and thoughts on how to fix the issues identified. But you never attempted to fix them in the first place, Jack. I will start with the principles I've come to believe based on everything I've learned and experienced through my past actions as a Twitter co-founder and lead. Social media must be resilient to corporate and government control. Yes. 2. Only the original author may remove content they produce. True. 3. Moderation is best implemented by algorithmic choice. Now, I want to dig into that just a little bit, because this just didn't really sit right with me. If you put in an algorithm, and I believe that this is how I worded it back to him, was an algorithm is created by the same humans that would remove the author's content of the behest of corporate and government control. That was my response. Somewhat. Because if you think about this, you have an algorithm. The algorithm is created by a human. That human can put in there what they want the algorithm, what they want you to see. And that algorithm, what kind of people would want to do it? People that want control. What kind of people want control? Government wants control. Corporations want control. Corporate heads want control of their baby, of whatever it might be. They want control. And their control is over the original authors. There you go. Love you, Jack, on that stuff, but I think you're wrong. He goes on to say the Twitter he led, when he led it, and the Twitter of today do not meet any of these principles. This is my fault alone. No, it's not. As I completely gave up pushing for them when an activist entered our stock in 2020. I no longer had hope of achieving any of it as a public company with no defense mechanisms. Lack of dual class shares being a key one. I planned my exit at that moment knowing I was no longer right for the company. The biggest mistake I made was continuing to invest in building tools for us to manage the public conversation versus building tools for the people using Twitter to easily manage it for themselves. This burdened the company with too much power and opened us up to significant outside pressures, such as advertising budgets, because everybody wants to make money. Versus building tools for the people using Twitter to easily manage it for themselves. There you go. Good thought. This I generally think companies have become far too powerful, and that became completely clear to me with our suspension of Trump's account. As I've said before, we did the right thing for the company business at the time, but the wrong thing for the internet and society. Much more about this here. I do not celebrate or feel pride in our having to ban the real Donald Trump from Twitter or how we got here. After a clear warning we'd take this action, we made a decision with the best information we had based on threats to physical safety both on and off Twitter. Was this correct? Jack, whenever you're CEO, you could have controlled that. You could have controlled every bit of that. But you didn't. You didn't control it. You didn't handle it. You handled it poorly. And you were happy to exit with a nice fat paycheck. Think about it, Jack. You got paid a lot of money while people were trying to create something, do something. A lot of it was just to promote where their channels were. Twitter, I do believe, which I don't think they'll show it, but would also follow up say I posted a link to my video tonight on Twitter and someone didn't like it, they could come back to Twitter and say basically that, I was promoting hate speech or that I don't like blue dogs. Something random. Twitter would come back and ban me because I posted a link of my video here. Or maybe they don't like something that I said 3 months ago on Twitter and take it out of context. Or don't give you the whole thing of what I might have tweeted. That's where Twitter shouldn't have that control. I continue to believe that there was no ill or intent, no, no ill intent or hidden agendas. Really? Okay, now you're just delusional, fuckwad. And everyone acted according to the best information we had at the time. Ugh. I'm going to have a drink. What information did you have at the time? You had people inside your own company that were lying to you. This is common amongst a lot of people that they will say, I'm sorry, this was my fault alone, but I was going off the information I had at the time. But you were being lied to. You didn't dig any deeper. You took your people's word over somebody else's. You're a shit. Of course, mistakes were made. Duh. But if we had focused on more tools for the people using the service rather than the tools for us and moved much faster towards absolute transparency, which you never would have done, you had no plan on it, or else you would have done it. You would have done it back whenever Tim Pool brought this information up to you, whenever you started banning people over random BS because you didn't like what they said, because they didn't have the same speak that you wanted them to have. We probably wouldn't be in the situation of needing a fresh reset, which I'm supportive of. What is with all these people wanting to do a reset? And I think about this. Everybody wants to reset. They want to start over with it. I mean, let's take this to its logical conclusion. You want to start over. Okay. So how far back do you want to go to start over? Do you want to start at the very beginning? Will that work for you? And where do you start? At the very beginning. Go back to the Stone Age, work our way up from there. When I was much, much younger, and I saw that my life was not really great, I could trace back to the time where I started making some of the mistakes that led me to the position where I was at the time. I think about that still to this day, of all the things that I've done throughout my life that got me to the position where I'm at now. It doesn't really work. You can't really go back and do a reset, because all of the actions that you've done sort of influence where you're at. So the best thing that you can do is move on. Jack clearly hasn't moved on. He wants to go back and start all over again. Would have, could have, should have. At 16, I didn't have to enlist in the military, but I did. At 19, I didn't have to go work pipeline construction and basically burn myself out mentally. And then I didn't have to go on tour with a band for 3 years. I didn't have to end up out in Georgia, out in the sticks, living in a converted funeral home. I didn't have to go work for a landscape company and get poison ivy from head to toe. All these decisions that you make through your life sort of build you to where you're at now. A lot of decisions that I made that were really poor decisions, especially even earlier on than that, whenever I was a child. But if I had to go all the way back, how far back would I go? I probably would have started learning to play music at a much younger age. So that way, by the time that I hit the age I am now, the arthritis wouldn't be so bad and I would probably have enough money. I wouldn't have to worry about it. But you can't do that. You can't go back. You can't reset. Jack, what's the point? Dummies. Again, I own all of this and our actions. No, you own all of this and your actions, and all I can do is work to make it right. Back to the principles, of course, governments want to shape and control the public conversations, duh, and will use every method at their disposal to do so, including the media. Well, media doesn't have to, but they like to, because there's big money in it. And the power a corporation wields to do the same is only growing. It's critical that the people have tools to resist this, and those tools are ultimately owned by the people. Allowing a government or a few corporations to own the public conversation is a path towards centralized control. I am a strong believer that any content produced by someone for the internet should be permanent until the original author chooses to delete it. And always it should be always available and addressable. Content takedowns and suspensions should not be possible. Doing so complicates important context, learning, and enforcement of illegal activity. There are significant issues with this stance, of course, but starting with this principle will allow for far better solutions than we have today. The internet is trending towards a world where storage is free and infinite, and which places all the actual value on how to discover and see content. So basically, that was just a bunch of gobbledygook. Because if you listen, he's a strong believer that the content produced by someone for the internet should be permanent until the author chooses to delete it. Here's the problem with that. I write something out. Somebody clips it, photoshops it, whatever. And they save it away for a rainy day. It's called a receipt. So that way you can't come back and say, well, I never said that. That's not what I meant. I really, really like this person. I have no ill will towards them. But, here in this little blurb, you said you were going to do X, Y, or Z to them. And then you posted pictures of their children. And then you did this X, Y, and Z and showed them where they live. You did this. Those are showing receipts. Jack doesn't want the receipts shown. Jack doesn't want people being called out. But he was doing it to people himself, or his company would. It would allow people like, who's that old lady? Taylor Lorenz, sorry. Allow her to go and dox people. And whenever people showed receipts, then she would sit back and cry about it. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Imagine she's able to delete her footprint of the bad things she's done. Imagine that. Saying, oh, I didn't do anything. See, I never wrote this article. Give me a break, Jack. Doesn't work. So, continue on with this. Which brings me to the last principle, moderation. I don't believe a centralized system can do content moderation globally. Okay. It can only be done through ranking and relevance algorithms. Okay, let's see what he has to say about that. Senate hearings. Understand the issues. Open up AI. Okay. So machine learning. Okay, but what about whenever? No. 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 Okay. That's a bad idea. We'll get into that later. The more localized, the better, but instead of a company. See, here. Jesus Christ. Here's the problem. Twitter should never have been used to reach into the far reaches. If that's what you design it for, then use it for that. If you're wanting more localized, which means closer in your area, why don't you get out and talk to people? Because it is so easy to type mean, nasty crap on the internet and say horrible things to people that you may not even really feel. But if you were dealing with that person in person and putting in context what they might be saying to you, human interaction would be so much better between humans because, well, it can be if you try to see somebody else's point of view. But people have gotten so desensitized to it and they spend more time on their phones texting little bullshit things back and forth, watching TikTok, scroll to the next one, they're swiping left or right or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know because I don't have that kind of crap on my phone. I use my phone to call people and I take pictures. That's really it. I might like have like health apps on there, so whenever I'm out walking or running or riding a bike or whatever, I can basically track that stuff. I don't even use Twitter on my phone because it's horrible. Fucking ads. I hate ads. Don't give me ads. I don't want them. But alas, I digress. Let me go back to jeez. I'm a strong believer that any content, blah blah blah. People should be able to build and choose from algorithms that best match their criteria. Yes, I said this earlier. Or not have to use any at all. A follow action should always deliver a bit of content from the corresponding account, and the algorithms should be able to comb through everything else through a relevance lens that an individual determines. Well, that's not bad. There's a default G rated algorithm, and then there's everything else one can imagine. The only way I know of to truly live up to these three principles is a free and open protocol for social media that is not owned by a single company or a group of companies and is resilient to corporate and government influence. The discovery of content, which ultimately puts, okay, so maybe I was, you know, thank you. Thank you for clarifying, Jack, and I apologize. My tweet was probably pretty mean. See, isn't that nice how you can backtrack on things and disagree with somebody until it's better explained and then you can agree, which ultimately puts one person in charge of what's available and seen or not. This is by definition a single point of failure, no matter how great the person, and over time will fracture the public conversation and may lead to more control by governments and corporations around the world. I believe many companies can build a phenomenal business off an open protocol. For proof, look at both the web and email. The biggest problem with these models, however, is that the discovery mechanisms are far too proprietary and fixed instead of open or extendable. Companies can build many profitable services that complement rather than lock down how we access this massive collection of conversation. There is no need to own or host it themselves. You will own nothing and you will be happy. Have you been speaking at the WEF, Jack? Bad boy. Many of you won't trust the solution because it's me stating it. I get it, but that's exactly the point. Trusting any one individual with this comes with compromises, not to mention being way too heavy a burden for the individual. It has to be something akin to what Bitcoin has shown to be possible. If you want proof of this, get out of the US and European bubble of the Bitcoin price fluctuations and learn how real people are using it for censorship resistance in Africa and Central South America. Well, we'll get into the Africa garbage here shortly. I do still wish for Twitter and every company to become uncomfortably transparent in all their actions, and I wish I forced more of that years ago. I do believe absolute transparency builds trust. As for the files, I wish they were released WikiLeaks style with many more eyes and interpretations to consider, and along with that, the commitments of transparency for the present and future actions. Hope all of this will happen. That's pretty powerful. Yeah, he wants all the files released. He wants everybody to be able to see it. There's nothing to hide, only a lot to learn from. The current attacks on my former colleagues could be dangerous and doesn't solve anything. If you want to blame, direct it at me and my actions or lack thereof. As as far as the free and open social media protocol goes, there are many competing projects. Blue Sky is one with the AT protocol, Mastodon another, Matrix yet another, and there will be many more. One will have a chance of becoming the standard like HTTP or SMTP. This isn't about a decentralized Twitter. Well, you also have HTTPS, and then you can write inside of it. But anyhow, this is a focused and urgent push for foundational core technology standard to make social media a native part of the internet. I believe this is critical both to Twitter's future and the public conversation's ability to truly serve the people, which helps hold governments and corporations accountable and hopefully makes it all a lot more fun and informative again. Wonderful. To accelerate open internet and protocol work, I'm going to open up a new category of smart small grants, open internet development. It will start with a focus of giving cash and equity grants to engineering teams working on social media and private communication protocols, Bitcoin, and a web-only mobile OS. I will make some grants next week, starting with a $1 million a year to Signal. Please let me know other great candidates for this money. Huh. Great. So, I'm not going to read through this because that is a lot of information. That's just written. Jesus Christ. It just goes on and on. Yeah. You're just, if you want to have long form conversation, we can do that. But how about this? The one island where you'll definitely die if you set foot on the beach. You heard about this place. It looks pretty nice. Just saying, that looks pretty freaking nice. Glorious beaches all the way around. Lush desert. Looks like it even has water, ponds, hills, mountains, a little bit of jungle. Doesn't look gigantic, but it looks very cozy. Why don't we find out? Most people like to travel to exotic places, especially tropical islands. Oh, I love tropical islands, which make for excellent vacation spots. But if you want to gamble with death, you'll avert this island at all costs. For starters, it is also patrolled by the Indian Navy, which enforces a 3 to 5 mile exclusion zone around the island. It sounds like something from Jurassic Park, which does share one real life comparison. The inhabitants will kill you. No, it's not dinosaurs, but native peoples who have yet to experience the Bronze Age in terms of technology. It's no exaggeration. These island people are considered uncontacted and are viciously protective of their island to the point where they have killed almost anyone who ventured onto its beaches. Real Life Lore had a great video explaining the history of the island and the tragic end may have met while trying to reach the Paleolithic people. We would watch it on YouTube. What do you think? Let's see what we got. What happened in a new tab? So,
on a flight to the city of Port Blair, the capital of the remote Andaman Islands that are a Union territory of India. But Port Blair wasn't his final destination. He spent the next 11 days in Port Blair in complete isolation, attempting to quarantine himself and purge his body of any infectious diseases that he may have been carrying with him.
Okay. Well, we are going to watch this later because I am not going to be up that late tonight watching this Just saying. I am going to save this for later. And where is it? On it. And we are going to save this for later time. There we go. But we will continue on. Located in the Bay of Bengal, North Sentinel Island was a national news story in 2018 when a Christian missionary, John Allen Chow, attempted to bring the world of Christ to these people. Oh. I've got a lot to say about that. If you knew my crazy ass mother, she attempted to bring Christ to me. Back of her hand, knee to the stomach, kicked around, slapped around, punched. And it didn't stop with me because she wanted to continue on with the rest of my family. This is a very unstable woman. But Christ was what she was all about. She bought into the witchcraft. Imagine you're in your young age. This cool little movie called Star Wars came out. Then, first time that you see it is at a drive-in theater. You are so tired that you do a double feature. Because whenever that music starts, you don't understand what's going on. And it seems a little boring at first, especially my age, very young. But then all of a sudden, the lasers start firing. And it gets crazy. Got these little creatures running around. The universe is so vast. You're going, where is this place? Is this Southern California? Just kidding. But they made this beautiful place, a creation. And you could let your mind imagine being Luke Skywalker, although you're, so little it doesn't matter. And as you age, you get to the next one. Oh my gosh, you got this Han Solo, and you've got a princess that needs saving. Oh my gosh, all of these childhood fantasies, and your mind just wanders. But then as you get older, they come out with another one. It's a continuation. And it's even better. Like, oh my gosh, how could this be? And you get all this Star Wars stuff. You've got TIE fighters, you've got the Millennium Falcon, you've got, the little dolls like G.I. Joes, except they're Luke and Han, and their arms articulate, and you've got, Boba Fett, you've got all of these neat little toys. I mean, you've got all your bed sheets are Star Wars. And then one day, your crazy ass mother hears something about Star Wars being witchcraft. Witchcraft. Child will worship the devil. They're sinking the devil into your soul. The end of the days are coming. If you allow your children to have this kind of influence on you, boy, don't get me started. I could start my own fucking cult, the kind of crap that I learned, the psychological bullshit. And all that stuff was pulled away from me. All the childhood toys, all the fun things that I had as a child was scraped up. It was thrown into a fire. No, my mother built a big fire outside. And everything that I had, from my pajamas to my underwear to every single plastic toy, got thrown in there and torched. Imagine that. So whenever you start going on about religion, I don't buy your bullshit. I've been thrown out of churches before because they didn't like the way that I looked. Just saying. I don't like religion. I find them as hypocritical as all of the people on the other side of it that are against religion. I've got no opinion. Your religion is your own. You stay on your side. I'll stay on my side. We'll be absolutely happy. We can live in perfect harmony. No problem with it. Anyhow, Chow, who considered lived on Satan's island, who he considered lived on Satan's island, so they considered this island Satan's island. He knew the risks, and after bribing some fishermen to get him within sight of the island's shoreline, he met his maker, literally. The Sentinelese butchered the missionary and buried Chow on the beach, where it remains today, as multiple efforts from the local authorities to retrieve the body proved unsuccessful. The natives would keep showing up in force. In 2006, two Indian fishermen were illegally fishing in the waters around the island and got drunk. Cheers, brothers. You probably shouldn't have done that. And this doesn't end well for them either, because crashing their ship into the surrounding reefs, witnesses from other fishing boats in the area witness the Sentinelese men emerge from the dense jungle with weapons and butchering the two men. They later displayed their bodies like scarecrows on the beach as a warning. Stay away. In 1976, the cargo ship MV Rusley ran aground near the island along the MV Primrose 5 years later. What? Oh, along with the MV Primrose 5 years later. The crew of the Primrose encountered the belligerent natives and sent in urgent distresses calling for firearms and ammunition for protection. The ship had no weapons, and the crew was waiting for another passing vessel to rescue them. Real-life lore added that the weapons drop wasn't necessary, as American helicopter pilots working in the area could airlift the besieged crew off the ship. The YouTube account humorously added that it was probably when the Sentinelese got thrust into the Iron Age they later scavenged the abandoned ship. Continuing on. There is no way to communicate with these people as they haven't had enough contact to decipher their language. In the 1970s, National Geographic and the Indian government captured some exclusive footage in the documentary Man in Search of Man, which was cut short when one of the boats carrying the crew was later subjected to arrow fire. A bittersweet end after local anthropologists had made numerous gift drops for years to make contact. The irony is that this island hasn't moved past the last ice age. Roughly, it's around 30 miles from the modern city of Port Blair on the Andaman Nicobar Islands. These people don't want presents from us. They want to be left alone. The Indian government has recognized that with a new law establishing the quarantine zone, while also acknowledging that close contact could wipe out this population since their isolation has led to them having no natural immunity against most diseases. It may look pretty from afar, but North Sentinel Island is a location of death for those who wish to visit. Don't go. Sounds good. I don't plan on it. But if any of you do, you can get to know this guy right here. He's your leader. He's the leader of the free world. Let's see what he has to say. I'm sure it's going to be really interesting. Let's find out. What I'll do is I'll zoom this thing in. We'll give you a little bit of full screen. Let's see what he has to actually say. Come on, Joe. Give us some good news. Tell us, what do you have to say?
Finance Corporation is investing nearly $370 million in new projects.
Nearly 370 million. That's interesting. 370 million in new projects. Where are you getting that 370 million from, Joe? Tell me.
100 million to increase the reliable, clean energy for millions of people in sub-Saharan Africa. 20 million to provide financing for fertilizer to help smallholder farmers, particularly women farmers, increase the yields of their crops.
Are you saying that women aren't capable of increasing the yields of their crops? What are you saying, Joe? Come on.
$10 million to support small and medium-sized enterprises.
What enterprises? You were just talking about farms. Enterprises, what do you mean?
That help bring clean drinking water to communities all across the continent. Okay. Just to name a few examples.
All right. Okay, you said 370 million, and then there was 100 million to do one thing, 20 million to do another, 10 million to do another. So where's the other 200 million? 200 and what? 240 million? Okay. Oh, look at this crooked bastard. Look at that. Why the long face, John? He's probably feeling really nervous with all these people around him because, well, he's not used to being in that kind of situation, is he now?
We also know that one of the most essential resources of any entrepreneur or small business owner who wants to participate in the global economy is reliable and affordable access to the internet.
Okay. Focus on your local economy. Joe, focus on your local economy. It's a novel idea, but it really does work. You focus on your local economy. You take care of your local people, and that spreads out, and next thing you know, you have all these little trade deals going on with other countries. Well, I didn't even know ships existed because, well, shit, I am completely landlocked and I'm nowhere near an ocean. But I support my local community. Whatever, Joe, you're an idiot.
So today, I'm announcing a new initiative, the Digital Transformation with Africa.
Digital Transformation with Africa. Okay.
Working with Congress to invest $350 billion.
$350 billion. Okay.
To facilitate more than almost $500 million in financing.
Okay. So $500 million. So that would be 500 million.
To make sure people across Africa can participate in a digital economy.
Okay, so are you giving like 500 million in what? Well, what's the catch here? You've got so far 370 million, but 200 million of it's missing. So over 200 million. 200 million is gone. Where'd that go? Using a quarter of a billion, which is like, you said $500 million, okay, which is 500 million.
That includes partnerships like new collaboration between Microsoft and VSAT.
So are you paying Microsoft, and who's that?
To bring in internet collaboration between Microsoft and VSAT.
VSAT. What's VSAT? I'll have to look that up. VSAT.
To bring in internet access to 5 million Africans, part of Microsoft's commitment to bring access to 100 million people across Africa by the end of the year 2025. That means programs to train African entrepreneurs with a focus on women entrepreneurs, to code and build skills that need.
Did he just tell the Africans to learn to code? I think I heard that wrong. He sounds like he just told people to learn how to code.
Like new collaboration between Microsoft and VSAT to bring in internet access to 5 million Africans, part of Microsoft's commitment to bring access to 100 million people across Africa by the end of the year 2025. That means programs to train African entrepreneurs with a focus on women entrepreneurs to code and build skills.
He just said they need to learn to code. Good job, Joe.
African entrepreneurs with a focus on women entrepreneurs to code and build skills that need to start their own businesses.
Okay, this makes no sense at all, Joe. You're talking about what? Because so far you said 350 billion and you've only mentioned using 500 million to basically train people. Okay.
To secure good paying jobs and technology firms. And this will include partnerships between African American companies to provide.
Okay, wait, I don't understand. Is it American companies or is it African companies?
Programs to train African entrepreneurs with a focus on women entrepreneurs to code and build skills that need to start their own businesses.
Code and skills and build to start their own processes or work for somebody else.
To secure good paying jobs.
Okay, if you own your own business, that is not a job. That is a career. That is an entrepreneur. Joe, do you know what an entrepreneur is? For an entrepreneur, it is not a job.
And with technology firms. And this will
with technology. Dude, you're telling people to basically become slave labor in Africa. Thank you, Joe.
Include partnerships between African American companies to provide cybersecurity services to make sure Africa's digital environment is reliable and secure. That brings me to my final announcement.
I'm confused.
I said at the top of this forum about closing deals, and we've delivered. So let's give you a few highlights.
Okay, Joe. We closed the deal. Just give me a few highlights.
On the deal room. The benefits they will deliver to Africa.
Benefits.
Cisco Systems and Cyber Bastion, a diaspora-owned small business, is jointly announcing 800.
Your diapers own a small business. Man, I've got to rewind that because I'm gonna put on the closed captioning and see what they see. Companies to provide cybersecurity services to make sure Africa's digital environment
is reliable and secure.
Okay.
That brings me to my final announcement. I said at the top of this forum about closing deals. And we've delivered.
Okay.
So just give me a few. Let's give you a few highlights.
Let's give you a few highlights from the deal room. So just give me a few. Let's give you a few highlights from the deal room
from the deal room to the benefits they will deliver to Africa.
Okay.
Cisco Systems and Cyber Bastion.
Cyber Bastion, diaspora-owned small business. Cyber Bastion. Let's look them up too. Cyber Bastion. Okay. All right.
A diaspora-owned small business is jointly announcing $800 million in new contracts to protect African countries from cyber threats.
So 800 million. So that eliminates the 500 million that you wanted to give. So 800 million added from another company. Not quite a billion. So we're still at 350 billion.
Visa is committed to putting more than $1 billion into Africa over the next 5 years.
Okay, so we're adding another 1 billion. $1 billion.
Years to further expand the operations on the continent, including providing mobile payment services for more micro, small, and medium-sized businesses across Africa.
Visa's transactions are really slow, and a bank controls those. So you're basically telling people to go into debt? Shit, sign me up for that. I think I want to be part of Visa if I'm going to be basically saying, hey, you guys are going to owe interest on everything that we do. It's time for me to look at mine's Visa stock. Visa stock sounds good to me.
General Electric and Standard Bank will provide $80 million to improve healthcare services.
See, I'm not sure what he's doing because he said something about 500 million that they're going to spend, but I'm wondering what they're spending it on because so far we've got 800 million that they're adding back to it. They got another 1 billion, 800 million, another 1 billion they're adding to it. And then they've also got, these guys are going to add another, how much did he say?
Payment services for more micro, small, and medium-sized businesses across Africa. General Electric and Standard Bank will provide $80 million to improve healthcare services and provide access to cutting-edge healthcare equipment. Altogether, the forum has spurred more than $15 billion in new deals, which will lift up and improve the lives of people all across the continent. And that's the biggest deal of all. These are long-term investments that are going to deliver real benefits to people, create new good-paying jobs, including here in the United States.
Okay. So, if I've got this right, they got 350 billion that they plan on spending. 500 million, I could be wrong, 500 million, another 800 million, another billion, another 80 million, and another 15 billion. Okay, we've still got a deficit there of, well, over 300 billion. In case you don't realize what 300 billion looks like. Take a penny, set it down, and then count out 350 billion of those. Hell, even just 100,000 pennies. Put those in a nice little pile. Take 100,000 of those. 100,000 pennies compared to 1 billion pennies, compared to, 1 million pennies to 1 billion pennies. So 1 million compared to 1 billion is a big jump in size. But we just throwing out numbers now.
Expand opportunities for all our countries for the years to come.
What? All our countries? The United States is only one country.
All of you, the deals you've signed, the investments we've made together are concrete proof of the enduring commitment we're making to one another, government to government, business to business, people to people.
Okay.
But most important, and this is just the beginning, there's so much more we can do together and that we'll do together. So thank you for your participation today, for being part of another historic U.S.-African Leaders Summit. We've got a lot of ground to cover in the coming days, and I'm eager to listen to the priorities you have for the future of the partnership between our nations.
Okay. You're an idiot, Joe. That's all I got to say. You are an absolute freaking moron. Moron. Complete moron. Sorry. Don't find this man to be very intelligent, and I'm sure there's not a whole lot of people that actually do. Because, just gotta say, he's so full of actual garbage. So anyhow, I'm going to call it a night tonight. If you catch up with this later, hit the like, hit the subscribe. I'm going to continue doing these kind of things, and I wish everybody to have a wonderful, wonderful day tomorrow. I know that mine is going to be good, and I'll leave you with my wonderful erotic turtles. Exotico.